Now we did add this first test in the previous lecture, but why exactly are we writing such tests? I mean, it's clear to us that this function works. Well, the idea is that we add more and more tests over time. We can then easily run them all at once to check if our entire project works, instead of performing a bunch of manual tests. But of course, we might be confident that everything works initially, though you shouldn't be too confident. You might have bugs in your code, and your tests could help you catch those bugs as you're writing your tests. We'll see more examples for that later in this course. But even if your code, your production code, your main code, is error-free right now, tests are still valuable. Because we defined our test here, and this test describes the expected behavior of this add function. Now let's say a colleague, or maybe ourselves in a couple of months, comes back to this add function and changes something there. For whatever reason, we decide that this is not the appropriate way of doing it, and we get rid of the initial value of 0 here. It's a tiny change, but it is a change. Now, if we have automated tests defined as we do, then whenever we make changes to our code, we should run our tests again to see if we broke something. And if we did break something, we might want to check if that was intended, because that, of course, is also sometimes the case. Sometimes failing tests are okay because you have an intended change that should be breaking. But here we would run npm test. And we would see that now our test fails because we expected a result of 6, but we got not a number. And we're getting not a number, of course, because we changed this to undefined initially. And when we add numbers to undefined, the result is not a number that makes sense, but it's this special JavaScript not a number value, because undefined plus 1 is not a number. That's how JavaScript behaves, and our test helps us quickly catch this error. And that's one of the main reasons for writing such automated tests. It makes it easy to check your code when changes to that code are made, and then you can evaluate whether that was an intended change if things break, as mentioned before, or, like in this case, it maybe is a bug that was now introduced. Of course, you could also catch this when testing everything manually, but it might take you longer. You might not test this functionality specifically, and therefore you could introduce subtle bugs without recognizing if you wrote tests and you have good test coverage. So you try to cover all your functions, all your units, and all the key functionalities and scenarios, then you can quickly catch such unintended changes and bugs.